Hey, how's it going? So today I want to go over the last beat that I added to my beat store. I want to show you how I made the drums, the kick, the snare, the sweeps, and everything out of using the one melody sample. I ended up finding this sample that I liked. So what I ended up doing, I chopped it up and I tuned it down. And you can play it whichever way you want, just chopped it right up. I took one little piece of the sample and I used that as a basis to make my drums, my sweeps, and everything. So I made a little pad with it to give a nice little ambience to the track. And just one note in the background. So I added a nice little chromatic enhancer here, which I really like. It's like a nice little noise gate. And of course I added some effects. I used the guitar rig. I messed with the peak filter on that. Stereo ambience, which I like. This kind of opens up whichever track you want to, if it's like guitars or anything like that, you want to open them up and make them sound bigger. This is a really cool plugin. Then of course some reverb and delay. I wanted a nice little rhythm in the background before I got my drums in. What I loved about this, I got beat slicers, glitchy sound, a nice little staticky that I wanted to add to the track. I wanted to add that vibe to this track. And again, I'm actually new to doing this whole making my own drums and everything out of the same melody sample, out of one sound. I think it's really creative and I really like and enjoyed it. This was a lot of fun. So I was experimenting with each track that I was doing. So what I did with the snare here, again, you see this sample, same sample. I warped it. I think I shrunk it a little bit. And I added these drum buses, compressors here, a frequency shifter, because see, when I was playing it, it seemed like it had a little too much of a muffled low end from when I was warping it and everything. So I kind of wanted to mess with the frequencies. And I love this decapitator. This is Sound Toys. This is not an internal plugin. This is actually from Sound Toys. And this one's great. This one works great on drums. You can add a drive, really add some distortion to it, which I didn't really do for this snare here. But you can take some of the high end, some of the low end out. And I really like this plugin. I didn't do too much, but it gave it a nice little punch that I wanted. And the kick, same thing, same sample. I used the warp on it. And again, the drum buses that Ableton has. So they have these cool drum buses here. And I used that on the snare, as you saw. And here on the kick as well, too. I gave it a little bit of an overdrive, which is some distortion to it. The hats again was nice and fun to do because it was new to me, and finding a way to warp and mess around with the melody sample to make it sound like a hat, it was difficult, but it was very interesting. Here's the same sample. I didn't warp it this time, which is a little weird. I thought I would have. Now I got these Redux plugins right here that come internally in Ableton, and I ended up using them. They kind of sound like big crushers, and I really like that. Again, going with the glitchy sound and that type of sound it gave the drums, I added this to the hats. I added some noise drums. Now this right here, you'll hear it. It kind of adds a little staticky to it. And to me, without it, it sounded a little less like a hi-hat. It kind of gave it a little more like a shaker sound to it. So I kind of like that. And I added a hat boost, a little amp gain here. I actually took away on that one. It was a lot louder with that, but I took away on that one because it sounded more like an instrument, maybe like a xylophone or something like that, and I wanted to sound more like a hat. Again, I used a decapitator. A little bit here for the filter, a little bypass filter. So now that I have my drums, it's time to make an 808. Now for the 808s, I ended up making two that went with the track, but I wasn't completely happy with it. So then I ended up adding a third one. And the third one I actually did not use from the same sample. I actually just ended up using an 808 that I have on my in my packs. So the first 808 sounds like this. This one's a little subtle. Here's a second 808. So that sounds more like a bass. You hear like an actual note, them together. So I kind of like that, but I still wanted to add that extra 808 that I didn't use from the samples. It's a little more subby with that, and I kind of like the way it sounded together. The first one, again, used the same sample, and I used those drum buses from Ableton. I used 2 of them again. It looks like I used the same ones for all of them. I added an overdrive to it, kind of like I did with the kick, so it has a little bit of distortion, and of course you can hear that grittiness of it in the first 808. The transient masters, which I love. The second 808 is pretty much the same. Same thing going on. The punch of drums, the overdrive, and I have the same reso chord. I don't know how you use. I think it's a reso chord, and I got a peak filter on it. Now I added some enhancers here and some bass mono and some EQs, just to help with the frequencies and everything with the 808. So already starting to sound like a track. I didn't really do too much to the crash, just pretty much the same as the hat, just add a little more reverb and gave it a little bit of a tail so it could sound like a crash. So it sounded more like an impact than a crash, but this is what it sounds like with the track. You know, nice little impact. And I like that because it was different than the crash, and I actually like that about it. My favorite thing that I made was the sweep. As you can see, some automation right here. Grain delay going with the frequency, so it messes with the frequencies as it shoots out delays, and it gives it a nice little swoosh sound, hence the sweep. I put a nice little pan plug-in so it can go from left to right. And without all the effects, pretty much what the sample sounded like before we did anything, right? With the effects and everything. Now lastly, for the pre-hook and the hook, I wanted extra melody going on. So I made myself a nice little synth out of the same sample. Out of the same sample, which is cool. I just added a couple plugins, enhancers. Again, we have the guitar rig, because I love using the peak filter. The reso chord, like I said, I really like this one, because you can mess with the octaves, the keys, and everything, and just really enhance it. And then we have the delay and the reverb. So that's pretty much the beat. That's pretty much the whole thing. And it didn't take me that long. Probably took me a couple hours to do and finish up. And it was fun. It was fun to make a whole beat, drums, and everything out of the same sample. So that was really good. I just did some arrangement. Made it nice and simple, not too crowded, so it's easy for a rapper to get on it. So yeah, so if this is a beat that you like, you just hit the link in my bio, go on my beat store, you can get it for free. You know, I just always just add the one little tag in the beginning, so you have the rest to do your own little thing. So yeah, I appreciate it. If you guys like this type of video, like, let me know, leave a comment, let me know if you want me to do some more like this, some more beat breakdowns. I'm definitely going to try to be a little more active this year. So let me know what you think, and here I'm going to play the rest of the track for you.